name is Aris LaTham, age 53, and the occupation is chefing. Living foods are fresh foods. Once you cook foods, you can't legally sell it as fresh. We're only talking about fresh foods. Nothing mysterious about it. There's no mystique in there. You know fresh foods. Living foods are fresh foods. What we're talking about is just foods that have not been heated, have not been cooked, because once they've been heat processed, then they cannot be legally classified or sold as fresh food. So Tropicana cannot call its orange juice fresh. They may say made from fresh frozen concentrate, but it is not fresh food. So living foods are foods that have not been heat treated. And we're talking specifically about plant foods, fruits, vegetables, herbs, seeds, nuts, sea vegetation, legumes, and these things. Well, food combination is a very important issue to be addressed. And there are certain foods that do not combine well with others because they do impair the digestion when they're mixed together in the system, particularly the carbohydrates and the protein, starches and protein. We would have things like nuts and seeds and avocados, coconuts, olives, which are rich concentrated protein. And if they're combined in the stomach with starches such as beans and grains, rice and wheat, and highly starchy vegetables, particularly root vegetables like potatoes, if they're combined together in the stomach, then the digestion of the starch or carbohydrate, which actually takes place primarily in the mouth, when it's found in the stomach with protein, the carbohydrate gets held back because the protein basically commands the digestive system. And in doing so, the carbohydrate would ferment, and there we would end up with indigestion, acid stomach, and of course gas and other symptoms will be very obvious to tell us that we did have a bad food combination. So it is important to really observe that. Well, of course, with the advent of colonialism and people traveling and setting up camps in different parts of the world, different customs, dietary customs in particular, have migrated as well. With the Latin culture in particular, you know, the Spaniards were very notorious or very famous for chopping down trees and grazing cows. You know, they've destroyed they destroyed the entire rainforest in California, you know, by chopping down the trees so that they can raise the cattle. And it's the same practice that was taken on into Latin America. So, of course, the diets there are very heavily meat-oriented, and in particular, lots of pork. There are very few people in Latin America that I've met that do not eat pork. And myself, growing up in Panama, I haven't been exposed to this, and then traveling around the world and seeing the difference. Today, you find that there are many serious diseases that are manifesting in the Latin culture because of this lifestyle. Within the African American community, of course, there's a legacy of slavery whereby the slaves had very little to eat, you know, and the primary source of nutrition was root vegetables. So, hence, you know, the lots of yams and potatoes and these types of things. And during that time, of course, they were not in a position to afford any meat, but they got the scrapings off of the master's plate. And most of the scrapings was odds and ends of pig guts and things like that. And what was done, they cooked it into the dishes in order to give it a flavor so that they can spread it for other people, you know, for everyone to be able to enjoy it. But today, you know, this custom has really created a very serious challenge within the African American community, because you have many people who are really eating too much starch, you know, and the starch themselves, you know, they're very high fuel foods. So if you're not busy out in a field picking cotton, you know, or running up and down a basketball court, and now you're now sitting in front of a computer and driving cars and living more of a sedentary lifestyle, that particular diet becomes very, very detrimental because the starch just sits on the system, clogs up the arteries, and here you have now a very severe high blood pressure situation, the heart trying to pump, you know, so much blood through a very little thin opening now because the arteries are clogged up. So, and of course, you have a lot of overweight going on. And today now we're seeing an overabundance of prostate cancer in African American male, which is directly related to eating too much animal protein, which secretes uric acid, which acts like a corrosive element in the prostate glands. And uric acid tends to settle in that area primarily. So this is one area that needs to be examined as to, you know, the legacy of the effect of eating meat on the community. Well, you know, we have to go back to our to pre-Columbian era, you know, especially Africans who came from Africa to the Americas, living in Africa. You know, of course, we lived in the bush, in the jungle, and we ate a lot of plant food, and there was very little diseases during that time. So I say, really, it's time to go back home, you know, and home doesn't have to be too far from where you are. It could only be back down south. You know, we need to get back to the land, basically. You know, we need to get back to the land and get out of the can. You know, so and you know, Jamaica, Africa, you know, we need to really empower ourselves and take responsibility for our food source, and not to be, you know, caught up on this collision course with Mother Nature, living in these highly developed urbanized centers where you're basically at the mercy of the food giant that control all the foods that come into your community, and who knows what is in those things besides the thing that they call food. And, you know, people in Latin America, of course, you know, they have such beautiful land there. You know, going to places like Guatemala and seeing how the Indians there do terrace farming and these things. These are the things that, you know, the educated classes in these places need to get back to, really reacquainting themselves with the tradition that they found there when they came and met the native American Indians in Latin America, and really assist these people to get back to their dietary tradition and get on board, you know, get back to the land. Yeah, well, you know, there's so much value in the way of health benefits in eating a plant-based food. One of the main things that one notices immediately when we leave the animal products behind is, of course, there's a loss of waste, because animal products do generate a bit of waste in the system. So we would tend to reduce some of the fat, some of the toxic elements in the system will leave the system. There'll be more energy for one to utilize, because most of the energy that you get from the animal protein goes into processing that product itself. So on a living food diet especially, where you're getting plant foods that are rich in enzymes, then there's very little work that the body really has to do to process this food. So you would have a whole lot more energy, and not just physical energy, but mental and spiritual energy as well, because these foods clog up our channels, you know, and in some cases, you know, there's definitely a direct correlation between diet, lifestyle, and, you know, attitude, you know, because a lot of the aggressive attitude that we see in the community, which is these days are called black and black crime or whatever it may be, a lot of these things are directly related to what we eat. You know, if you eat like pigs, you're going to act like pigs. You are what you eat. You know, if you eat like cows, then you're going to be running around like bucking broncos on the football field or wherever you are, trying to knock your brother down. You know, so these are serious benefits that one needs to be aware of to be able to get back to these foods. And of course, there's tremendous spiritual reward when the body is clean. You know, having consume fresh plant foods that does not pollute the body, now the spirit has a much more welcoming temple in which it can dwelling, and therefore, our days of our lives will be a whole lot more peaceful, a whole lot more rewarding, and most of all, a whole lot more loving. One of the a big issue that we face, not only in the African American community, the African community worldwide, and the Latin community, but also in other races as well, is the whole sexual aggression, that one is portraying today. And a lot of this is definitely directly related to the types of foods that we eat. As I mentioned earlier, eating an animal-based protein diet, these animal proteins release or secrete a lot of uric acid, which irritate our sexual glands and create quite a bit of challenge for us. Of course, this uric acid that is being released from the waste of the animal protein within our system is very irritating to the prostate glands. And the body wants to eliminate these somehow. And, we see it with all men of all races, where they end up having a lot of what you may call involuntary, emissions. They just have wet dreams, and but it creates a very serious sexual aggression in that the body really wants to eliminate this toxin, and the woman is a good channel, to use as a vehicle to help them relieve themselves. But unfortunately, now we're dumping these toxins into the women, and we see what happens now with the fibroids and the yeast conditions and all of these things. There's definitely a direct correlation with these things and our dietary lifestyle. And besides, the animal protein, there are lots of other things that we put into our system in the way of drugs, the toxins from the drugs, from the alcohol, and one particular one that's really a very serious issue today, and it's always been, is marijuana. Smoking marijuana, smoking ganja, taking an herb, a sacred herb that have lots of medicinal qualities, and rolling it up and torching it, and sucking that torch down into our lungs, we're actually ingesting a lot of the toxins that have been activated by the fire. See, there's nothing wrong with the herb, but it's the fire that activates the toxins in the herbs. And this toxin goes directly into the lungs, which is supposed to expel toxins. And as it hits the bloodstream, it instantly, once it gets to the lungs, the blood now travels through the brain, and with these toxins on it, it creates an irritation on the brain. And this toxic irritation is what we identify as being high. We identify this as being high, but the body automatically goes into self-defense. It wants to get these toxins off the brain. And one of the things that we do to get the toxins off the brain is go have some sex. Bring it down here, because you need a lot of blood activity down in the sexual organs. So that's one way, the one thing that creates that sexual aggression. And of course, there's other effects, dietary effects in particular, because one good place to get that blood off the brain quickly is down into the stomach area. So we go and we eat foods that are hard to digest. We have a lot of yams and green bananas and potatoes and rice and beans and bread and nuts, chips, the munchies, the munchies, trying to get that blood off the brain, trying to protect the brain. Otherwise, we're going to burn out a lot of brain cells. So these are things that we really need to wake up to, and stop destroying ourselves by ingesting the wrong foods into our system, or the right foods by using the wrong processes, and really just destroying ourselves. If you give up the plant foods, of course, see, one of the things that we misunderstand when people say that, fish is an aphrodisiac, seafood is an aphrodisiac, it makes you, want to do it. It's the garbage, the waste that's being released from the fish that is stimulating the body. The body wants to eject that garbage. So, of course, this is a good way to do it. But you would find that once you get into a plant-based diet, of course, we know the big key is our blood. You will free the toxins out of the blood, your circulatory system will be much stronger, and you now are in a position to really command your blood to wherever you want it, And, you would find that your stamina, your sexual stamina, your energy, your drive is actually much more powerful, but now you are in control. You are in control. And you can also take this energy and channel it, redirect it. So you don't have to be constantly ejaculating, because you're not having the irritation. So, you can produce the sperm, bring all this blood down to the sexual gland, produce the sperm, but you can rechannel it, redirect it, because this is life-giving force. And if you don't use it to create another life, then you can use it to recreate your own life by rechanneling it up into your system and taking that energy to create a brand new you. Well, I've been a vegan now for 30 years and a raw food eater exclusively for 24 years. And also I've been blessed to be able to develop my lifestyle into a way that I was able to market it. So I've been in the food industry for 21 years, primarily as a chef. And it's such a joy to be in the kitchen preparing foods without, first of all, the heat factor, not having this. It's a liberating feeling to get in there, and it allows you to stretch out, to really, 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 really create. Because one of the things about preparing living foods is that you can change direction in the middle of the recipe. You don't have to wait till, certain things get to a certain level in order to know that, well, this is not what I'm looking for. So you can actually create constantly every step of the way. So it really allows us to express the artistry in us, but the energy of the foods, the aroma, the colors, the vibrancy of being there, it's really a healing process within itself. And then also it's very comforting that you can get into a nice meditative space, being in the kitchen and having this direct relationship with the food that you are actually going to eat. The cuisine, the living food cuisine today, as it has been expounded by many people, many practitioners, and now many chefs are turning towards preparing living foods. And I'm so happy to see a lot of young people with health, vitality, stamina that are getting into this because it makes sense. Because unfortunately, prior to this, most of the people who have gotten into living foods, they got into it because they were ill. So most of the cuisines that have been developed for living food eaters were developed from a sick point of view, because they were developed for sick people, and they were developed with a very pure, clean intention, so that the taste bud is not stimulated by lots of herbs and spices, and for people to facilitate the healing of chronic diseases. So it has had a reputation of being plain, simple, bland, and boring. But now, with people like myself who have been into this for 21 years and got into it as an eater, not as someone who was sick. I got into it as an eater who wanted to enjoy good living food, so I was able to vibrate, my background, my tradition, things that I've seen and tasted in my home setting that I'd never wanted to let go of, but I wanted to let go of the fire, so be able to transfer that energy into living food and create great dishes that just explodes in your mouth, has been quite a joy. So now it's been really, really very comforting to see that, there are other people on the front line that coming in with more creative energies and are being able to smack the palate, so that you really don't even have to be a live food eater, a live food enthusiast to actually enjoy this. One of the greatest joy that I get is to prepare live food and present it in a way where it can be instantly associated with something that from a traditional cooked cuisine, that you just look at it and you say, I want one of those, and I don't market it as live food, health food, vegetarian food, or anything. It's just great, exciting, good food. So to create living food that looks inviting, that just attractive, that just gets you to want to just try it because you look at it and you see, wow, that's got my name on it. Now the second stop is when you taste it. You get some flavors that just explode in your mouth, things that you've never tasted before. I mean, to eat fresh foods that were not cooked, that the life force was not taken out of them. As we said, the sunshine was not cooked out of it. And you taste this, it's just like, wow, I never thought I could eat raw corn, because when you eat cooked corn, it's tasteless. So you got to put all the salt and, oils and all this stuff on it, trying to wake it up, because you cooked all the flavor out of it. So with living food, preparing it like this for eaters, whereby, you just captivate their taste buds immediately once they taste it, then, the health portion of it is just, a byproduct. So one doesn't have to even, push that part too much, because they're automatically going to receive that as a benefit. So the thing is to really, just, as I say, just smack the palate, and that's it. Sunfire Cuisine, which I developed about 25 years ago, it's a living, creative, artistic masterpiece, because what I call it, it's edible art. When you leaf through the food, you will see the vibrancy of the color, the textures, and you can actually taste it by looking at pictures of it, looking at a video of this food. You can actually taste the energy behind it. So it is presented in a way where it's like a movie, it's a drama, it's like a painting, and some people even say, oh wow, that pie is so beautiful, it looks so good, I don't even want you to cut it. I said, oh, don't you believe in you are what you eat? So imagine how beautiful you're gonna look when you eat this beautiful pie. This is how your food should look. So rather than having some sloppy, greasy stuff, that you end up looking like that, you wanna eat some very attractive food, because, who doesn't want to be attractive? Gee, you are what you eat. And this is what I portray in my book, in my video, in my material. So at least, if you're not here at the dinner table with me, my book can bring your dinner to my table for you. Vitalities, what an event! Wow, did I have fun. Oh man, I smacked some palates. It was so good to see, it was like a family reunion that has been like long overdue, to be here in Jamaica in the grill on the beach with the bountiful of produce that is available here, and to see all old friends and new family members coming to the fold and just sharing this exciting weekend. It's been quite inviting, quite interesting for me, and also to get an opportunity to get people to actually now find out what it is behind the food that they've been eating, to get the philosophy of what Sunfire Foods represent. It's been quite a wonderful opportunity to be able to speak and share the fun of being vital. Unfortunately, many of us have got hooked on so many drugs, and, we don't realize, though, that most of the food that we eat that are part of the SAD diet, the standard American and now the standard world diet, because we've been exporting not only the McDonald's and all of these things, we're exporting a lot of other parts of the lifestyle that is very toxic. And one of the most serious thing that has been really just exploding all over the world is these coffee bars. Who would think that someone can actually sell poison, and get such a big audience to want to come and intoxicate themselves with something like a coffee bean. Coffee bean is one of the most dangerous foods on this planet. First of all, what one thinks that they're deriving from the coffee in the way of pleasure is actually toxins. Because if you take a fresh coffee bean and you sprout it and try to enjoy it live, you're not going to get the jolt, you're not going to get the whip. So what the coffee bean has gone through in the roasting process, same like the ganja, that fire, that heat, is brought out the toxins in that bean. And now this toxin acts like a whip on our system. And you can compare coffee to the whip of a jockey. When the jockey whips the horse and the horse starts to run fast, it is actually running away from the sting of the whip. And when you whip your body with that hot cup of coffee and you think it makes you feel warm and makes you feel good and nice, you're actually whipping the body with that coffee. And believe me, when the sting of that whip wears off, you want to another sting. And there you go, 5, 10, 15, 20 cups a day, because you have now weakened your immune system, you're weakening your body, so you have to keep not only whipping it, but you got to give it a stronger whip now. And something like coffee is a very, very dangerous whip because it is so addicting. It is so addicting, and it really just corrodes the system. So we really need to be very conscious that people out here that are creating these new culture lifestyles in the way of food with coffee bars and these things, these people are into this business strictly for the money. Strictly for the money. And, you know, unfortunately, here in Jamaica, Jamaica is known for its Blue Mountain coffee, which is now, I think, the most expensive coffee on the planet. But it is strictly all about business. It's not that Blue Mountain coffee is really the best coffee in the world. The problem is that the Japanese came into Jamaica and bought the Blue Mountains, and they own the rights to all the coffee that comes out of the Blue Mountain. So they have a monopoly on it. And you know, these guys are very wise businessmen. The same way they shoved the macrobiotic diet down our system and all the other stuff, now here they going around the world getting precious things like coffee that, you know, they know carries a big, you know, price tag on it if they can really just dominate the market. And this is what they're doing. And they've really destroyed the entire coffee industry here in Jamaica by just bastardizing it and really ripping it off. And now you are supporting this and killing yourself and becoming a victim there and victimizing the people here who used to own the land that was making, you know, meager profits off of this coffee. And now here you got a big world food giant companies that have ripped it off, and the amount of profit they're making is astronomical. So we really need to stop participating in this form of brutality, in what we call food warfare. You know, food is definitely a weapon, and we have to be careful. And something like coffee is a very, very serious weapon. And not only serious, it is a very dangerous weapon that really just gets you hooked and puts you in the fold, and it also sucks your money. A cup of water with some coffee for so much money that has created such a huge industry now that, you know, we really need to just wake up. We need to wake up, you know. Gee, Jamaica has pineapples too, you know. Man, we can maybe start a pineapple juice bar all over the world, you know, and, you know, get people hooked on some serious pineapple, you know, or some ackee or something else. But, you know, what I've got to say to you is it's not the food in your life that counts, but the life in your food that nourishes. And when you kill that coffee, karma is going to catch up on you, because the coffee is going to kill you back. And it's a slow process, but it's guaranteed to kill you someday.